Welcome, greetings. Had to change my opening here this time. This is the UC Weekly News for the start of August. Wow, summer's going very fast. A lot of things going on. My partner Dave Michels is with me today. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing grand, just grand.
Grand. That's wonderful. So this is going to be a conversation. This is called the preface. If we were a manufacturer, this would be the legal terms, the safe harbor statement. This is Dave and I are going to speculate about what's going on in the industry from an M&A perspective, perhaps, and from what's going on with companies. This is based on no information, nothing inside, purely Dave and my
This is
speculation.
all inside information and it's strong financial advice that we're giving good.
I no 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 no. You reminded me of something we used to do when we were in financial services when they would say that when we were recording for compliance for video that it was enough to record the audio. And I said to them, well, what if somebody was saying buy this stock and holding up a sign that said don't buy and don't listen to what I'm saying? I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting. So anyway, back on
No,
the
this
topic.
is just to be this is financial entertainment is what this is. This is
Okay.
uh because honestly, if we actually had any insight into what was going on here, we couldn't talk about it. So
All right.
so the what allows us to talk about it is the fact that we have no clue what we're talking about. But we do, I do need to say that we do have on a member a distant part of our organization is Dimitri Nettis. He contributes quarterly to the Insider Report. He is a Wall Street M&A expert pro. We wanted him to be on this. We invited him. We recruited him. Expected him to be in this recording, and he said he can't. He cannot actually say anything like this and participate in this. But he is. He's in my ear. I got an earplug. He is whispering in my ear the whole time. No, he's not here. So we are, by definition, completely unqualified to be talking about this.
And the reason this all came up, it's actually kind of interesting because the summer is quiet. And whenever it's quiet, whenever there haven't been a lot of announcements, it always
Too
makes
quiet.
somebody who's been watching the industry think of, well, is this an official quiet period? Is somebody being quiet on purpose because they have to? Is something coming out? So it started making us think, well, what could be around? The first one that pops into our mind, we've talked about this on and off, is NetSpeak. And I've announced before, and everybody knows that I was an early advisor to the next NetSpeak team before they were public, before they had their Lena tool. But they're clearly a startup. I'm sure if somebody wrote them a big enough check, they would be happy to join one of the larger companies. And it makes sense that a company would do that. Obviously, I would suggest some of the biggest platforms in the world are looking at their first mover advantage and thinking, what's easier, build or buy, build or buy, build or buy. But I think somebody would probably look at them and say, wow, look at what they're doing. Look at what they've accomplished with the autonomous ability to repair problems on the network and fix problems with systems. I got to think they're probably in some conversations, or at least people are thinking about some conversations with them. What do you think, Dave?
Well, it's one of those things where, it's how you look at AI. And a lot of people look at AI as a feature. Oh, we could add transcription. Oh, we could do this. We could change the lighting, etc. Or we change our entire approach of how we do business. And so NetSpeak kind of falls into that second category. And so any company in the AV arena that is not feeling that they have leveraged AI well enough to survive in the onslaught of AI we're just starting would be a fantastic prospect to acquire NetSpeak.
Yeah, and this week's got some smart people. They've hired more. Dan Root is there. Deb Alexander. There are a bunch of other really cool people that I know that I haven't get. If I try and name them all, I'll forget. But growing company, really great technology, way, way, way ahead of everybody else, including people that, in theory, have been in that one screen to monitor everything business for a decade or more. And they're way ahead of them, and they've only been going on for a year and a half. So good, more power to them, and so they're a company we're going to continue to keep an eye.
What do you think of do you think it's more likely a hardware company or more likely a software company or more likely a services company?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. I think that their product is so much more mature than some of the other ones that are out there from the services companies right now. That you look at some of the who are the biggest AV integrators right now. There's used to be AVI Systems Forte, there's CTI, there's AVI SPL, which is still riding Symphony for decades. Any one of them could make the decision to ditch what they have and go with the superior. I mean, it'd be very similar to the decision that Cisco made around the telepresence era, where they said we could continue to develop these things that we made, or we could simply throw them out and buy Tandberg. And that's what they did. They threw them out and bought Tandberg. They bought the more mature product. So, yeah, I think it's a services play, or it's a play for one of the hardware manufacturers that wants to do the same thing. That say, well, here's our platform where we know we're making our money on management and monitoring, but wow, this is just so much of a better platform. Well, how can we incorporate it? So it's build or buy, and we'll see where that goes.
What else you got?
Well, a few months ago, I was talking to Ollie Henderson at Infocom about this with Jabra. A few months ago, their parent company GN sold off their hearing aid business. So now
Huh? What? What?
now they are a B2B company, and they're focused primarily on enterprise communications with, their headsets and their speakers. In fact, I have a few of their headsets here that they just sent me that I'm going to demo over the course of the next week or so and see what they're going with their Jabra Speak Puck. You've talked about that. I've talked about that with them. They have their new video bar that came out, the U30. So the question is, are they a buyer or a seller? They've got a joint venture going on that they've had for, about a year or so now with the Hudley folks, where they're using the Hudley crew, the multiple camera system with their own endpoints. Hudley's been in speculation about whether they're selling themselves for a very long time. So they specifically called it a
No, no,
joint.
no. We're gonna get to Hudley. Stick with Jabra here.
Yeah. So they could be an acquirer, and once they sell off, finish the sale of the hearing aid business, get the cash from that, use that to pay down debt, they'll have a bit of a war chest, and they might be buying. Or, speculation, it could have been a prerequisite to a sale of them. There might be, now who would buy a hardware manufacturer like that? Well, probably not a competing hardware manufacturer. It doesn't make sense as a takeout play. There's a lot of people that have it, but the way HP, screwed the pooch on the Poly deal, where they're almost unreadable market share at this point. Would a Lenovo or a Dell or somebody else, would they want
Yeah,
to
the
repeat that?
problem with
Or
the headset business is, Plantronics was at it for, I don't know, 50, 40 years, like that, a long time. But it was a very specialized telephony type of product. But since the iPhone, or I guess it's really since the iPod, has made headphones such a consumer popular product, that the competition has really exploded. And Plantronics, they consider Jabra a primary competitor back in the heyday, but it was just such a whole different world because the go-to-market was different, consumer retail, Amazon, etc. Very different than where Plantronics had its heritage. The thing about Jabra that's so interesting is it's a Danish company, and there's not very many tech companies out of Europe. And I don't know how familiar you are with Copenhagen, but they have the best freaking open face sandwiches you can get. So it might be worth acquiring Jabra just for access to that, the pipeline to those they call them rugbrød sandwiches. So really, that's a big plus on their side. But I think you're wrong when you about the HP thing because HP screwed the pooch. Is that what you said? I want to be sure I get
through the
that
pooch. Yeah,
technology
that's
right.
a colloquialism. It's an
They,
American
they, they,
colloquialism.
they screwed the pooch on the video side, but HP didn't really have headsets. And right now, you know, if you are Dell or Lenovo watching HP bundle poly headsets with every corporate laptop deal, you got to be looking at that going, that's attractive, and of course Jabra because they sold off the hearing aid, which I don't really understand because it seems like the hearing aid thing would be more lucrative. That's not kind of going through into a consumer space now. But what I don't know anything about hearing aids, so but it seems like it would be more lucrative. But Jabra is now a pure play, and so that could be really attractive for like a Dell or a Lenovo. So I would think that that would be really attractive to companies like that.
No, it's possible. I mean, it's definitely something that we'd want to keep an eye on, see what's going on. Another company that's come up that we should probably talk about. We just had on last week's show here Ilya Bookstein from Microsoft, and we spoke for an hour. Amazing, great conversation. If you haven't seen it, just go back and take a look at it.
It
We're
was
we're talking about
just like him doing a keynote at one an hour.
the keynote, except we kept them on point, so that was a good thing. Um, but we're talking about the future of video interoperability, and he made the point that CVI was big at one point, but now there are really only two companies doing it: Cisco for a small part of their legacy business, and Pexip as a third-party provider. And then we spent the rest of the 30 minutes of the hour talking about how they're going to improve interoperability between platforms, which makes you wonder what's
No,
the
no, no, no.
future
How they intend to improve. Don't
intend.
jump to any conclusions.
Yeah, well, I'm taking him at his word. But the point is, if you're a Pexip or a Synergy Sky, you've got to be thinking about, well, if this is going to get better, do we really need third-party companies in the middle anymore? And I know Pexip has a huge business around FedRAMP, around high security connectivity, and not going on any of these public platforms. And I'm sure that's a very lucrative part of their business. But would they be a buyer or a seller or in play, or would their business be changing? That's an interesting.
They are a surprisingly large business. They pop up on and off our radar, and it's kind of easy to think of them as a small business. But they're actually a public company, and they've actually got a pretty decent market cap. And so uh, there would be a big acquisition, bigger than you might think, uh, to acquire. But the core issue, as you described, is interoperability is becoming a feature, not an add-on. However, where Pexip excels is a lot to do with military and government and
Right, the secure high security platforms.
yeah, high security and so you've got that. You've also got this global kind of pushback on American tech companies right now. And so if you don't necessarily want, if you're a European company talking to another European company, you don't necessarily want Microsoft to be doing your interop, or you don't want Cisco to do your interop. You want to keep that hands off. And PepSip is really good with the air gap solutions, government solutions.
Hmm.
High security video tech is a gold mine right now. And so I think that Pexip is a very attractive play, but maybe not by a traditional buyer, maybe more like a defense contractor or or the one of the reasons Norway is actually on the map is their video heritage. So
Hmm.
a Nordic private equity play could also make sense. Just
Oh, right, that might make sense. The only thing that again, the list counter to that is, do you remember Lotus 123? And the word processing software, and then Microsoft makes it a feature, incorporates it into their system, and then all of a sudden these third-party companies don't exist. I personally don't understand how TomTom still exists. I know that they're still around. I get emails from their marketing people, but that's now a feature in everybody's mobile phone, the GPSs. So you have to look at Pexip through those eyes of, is what they do going to become a feature of a larger platform? And you're right,
Yeah,
there
I
is
don't, I don't, I
sovereign
don't, I don't,
issues.
I don't, I gotta take issue with your analogy. What Excel didn't take out Lotus, Word took out Lotus. It was the fact that you could buy Word, they called it Office. That was the very first version of Office, was you got Word and Excel together for about the price of buying Lotus by itself. And so WordPerfect and Lotus were the two casualties of that because neither one of them
Right.
were able to bundle very easily. They actually did get bundled eventually when they both got acquired, but that was years down too late. But anyway, I think that
I still don't remember if I'm supposed to start a cell with an equal sign or a plus sign. So, I get
yeah, yeah,
confused.
or slash or yeah,
Mm.
it's there's whatever it is, it's not what you did. It's the opposite.
Right.
But I really think that with Pexip, I really think it's defense. I think it's Palantir. I think Booz Allen. Those are the kinds of companies that could grab a Pexip and actually make it a big part of their value prop.
Mm.
You got the usual suspects, Zoom, Cisco, whatever. Not as strong. But then I also back to my reason Norway's on the map. Any it's a European play, and so. Um, any kind of European tech buyout, I think has I'm gonna put my chips on a European tech buyout.
Yeah, it's possible that the EU themselves.
Neat should buy Pixit. There you go. Because if Neat buys Pixit, then you've got Neat's got a great hardware play. They've got some good software, but this will strengthen their software play. It'll strengthen their interop play, strengthen their military play, strengthen their Nordic play. That's it. I solved it.
Well, I would go back to something you said prior to that.
I got to call Javed right now.
If it wouldn't directly be Neat, it would be the company that put Neat together, which is Ubon Partners, which is the private equity out of Norway. So anyway, it's good speculation. And before we leave this topic and move on to telephony, we did mention Hudley before. Hudley's an interesting company. I've known people there for a very long time, people that started there, people that are still there. Their original raison d'etre was they created this really small camera which was very high quality, which I still have back here somewhere. And they put so many wonderful smart features in the camera. The question you always ask yourself is, well, yeah, that's a really gorgeous camera. Why are you making it portable? Nobody's going to walk in with a camera that size. What's the point of making it so small? So it was always kind of like, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but. Their latest iteration in products, they just came out with the C1, which we absolutely loved the style of the C1, and it had some performance issues. Uh,
Very Lego-ish.
yes, very, 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 very attractive, very different. The video box, not the video bar, but the questionable in terms of, well, let's just say if you're using it for wide shots, it's fine, and for close-ups, it wasn't the best experience. And then they have the Hudley Crew, which is an amazing experience, which is the idea of having a three, four cameras in a room with the automated director and switching to the point where, as we said before, Jabra incorporated that. I know that for a while Crestron was looking at incorporating that, and a few other companies where that's a company that probably would make sense to augment a company that really needs camera technology. So
So the thing that I don't think people realize is the proliferation of cameras that we are seeing, and I don't know about you. I'm afraid to ask David how many cameras you have on your desk facing you right now, but there's the number of cameras on the individual desk keeps on increasing, obviously, but it's much bigger than that. I mean, I've got cameras in my car yelling at me when I'm not looking at the road. There's cameras
11. I have
everywhere.
11 cameras facing me right now.
Okay, 11. I guarantee you're going to call me in the middle of the night and say it's actually 13. I forgot these two. But the the number of cameras is increasing, not decreasing. And they're also not just cameras for video, they're cameras for motion detection. We're using cameras for a lot of things now. And Hudley's got not only camera smarts and capabilities. Well, you mentioned the small cameras, but they've also got really good intelligence. They got their auto framing, their multi-camera speaker tracking thing. They got and they could do this all directly on the silicon, cutting costs of licensing fees. And so I really think that Hudley's a great opportunity. It could be a car maker. It could be. There's so many companies, toy companies. We're putting cameras in everything, and so I think there's a big opportunity for a company like Hudley to get acquired. And
Okay.
so
I'm sure they would probably like that. So we have to go through it. So let's pivot a little bit, stay with business
they look like
communication.
a Lego, Lego should acquire them. Yeah.
I don't think so. You couldn't if you wouldn't fit under your foot if you were stepping on it at midnight. It's too big. It'd have to be smaller to cause pain on your foot like a Lego. Let's pivot a little bit over to voice. Because there are a lot of interesting companies that are doing voice and telephony. I know that, and I'll let you pick them, but we can start with Vonage. I mean, Vonage was one of the earliest ones to do a voice over IP, and their management has changed a whole bunch of times, including recently. What's their latest story?
Yeah. So Vonage is a great success story. They're one of the VoIP pioneers. They have those amazing commercials. They've gone through a lot of different lives, a lot of different CEOs, but and it's always pretty much been a pretty good, successful story. They've done great. Uh, I got to know Vonage back in gosh, it must have been the early 2000s, maybe around 2010 or so. They were doing the BroadSoft roll up, which I thought was brilliant that they changed. They ended up building their own platform. They've gone through a lot of different lives, but unfortunately, uh, Ericsson didn't know what to do with them, right? And Ericsson acquired them for way too much money. And let's see, they bought them for like 6.2 billion in 2022. Um, and they only wanted one division of it, and they really screwed up everything else. They took a $45 billion write down. They've changed the leadership again. Just recently changed the leadership last this month. Uh,
Again.
yeah, again. Um, and they've indicated that they really only care about one part of the company, which is the API network APIs part of the company. They don't really care about the legacy communications, UCaaS, contact CCaaS, et cetera. And so those things should at least be spun off where they can get some love, or maybe the whole company should be acquired because I don't think Ericsson knows what to do with it. Um, the company does have an incredible amount of great intellectual property. They've done a number of smart acquisitions over the years, and it would really be nice to see somebody pick that up. Um,
Who would be a buyer? Would that be
Private
like
equity, probably. Francisco Partners, they've come and gone to this industry. They were a longtime partner with Mitel. Cirrus Capital, another partner with Mitel. Thoma Bravo, God, they got to be looking for something to rescue them out of that Verint mess. Um, I could see Ring Central or 8x8 picking up Vonage. So they got a lot of options there, and I think they when they brought in Rory, who's currently the CEO of Sprinkler, I think they brought him in to sell it, and he did a great job and got way too much money for that Ericsson sale. But they need to. I don't know if this new CEO is going to be chartered to sell the company, but I think they really need to find a buyer.
okay? And as you mentioned, Ring Central and 8x8 and those companies, we didn't bring them up when we were talking about buyers for some of the video spaces. Would one of them really like to break further into video by picking up a Jabra or by picking up a Hudley or by picking up something like that?
They all have pretty good video stories as it is. Ring Central in particular has been expanding into events and doing a pretty good.
Platform stories, but not hardware stories. They're partnering with hardware. Do they want to own some of the hardware?
Um, Most of those companies, I think, are allergic to hardware.
Hmm. Okay. Well, it's still something to speculate about and think about. Is there any other M&A going on in the in that space?
Did we cover? Let's see. There's always more M&A going on, but and obviously there's something going on because, like I said, Dimitri would not participate in this call. He was like, "I
Well,
can't, I can't, I can't."
I don't believe that there's anything imminent. I think that's just his appropriate policy that he's not allowed to do that. So let's not speculate about the speculation. Like not a non-answer is an answer. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you have, if I look at this, as a video guy looking at telephony space, you have Mitel, which is a pure hybrid voice situation. They've partnered with Zoom. And as you pointed out, Ring Central, we interviewed the Queen video there a few months ago, and they've got a big story, and 8x8 has got a video story. I mean, it's a possibility that one of them might want to grow past their current boundaries and be something interesting. I don't think there's going to be any more M&A right now in the contact center space or customer experience, what they call it.
Oh,
the
yes, definitely, definitely. No, I completely disagree with that. There's
Oh,
going to be a
okay.
ton. There's way too many companies. There's going to be a lot of consolidation that happens, and there's basically, well, yeah. I'll just leave it there. We can go another half hour. Well, that's another episode. That's another
Okay.
episode
Well,
on
we have
CX.
a lot of August to do. No, I was thinking more when the Zoom and Five9 deal fell apart, and then Zoom created their own, and Five9's gone through also probably about two other full flushes of leadership. I'm just not sure how much more business there is, and what you're pointing out is consolidating. I'll be a little bit more specific and call it shrinking.
Well, there's consolidation, but there's also a bunch of companies, particularly CRM companies, that all of a sudden feel they need to be in CCaaS. And so Salesforce is a good example of that. They decided they needed to be in CCaaS, and so they announced they're going to build from scratch. I have no idea. I mean, it's going to take them 5 years minimum to get anywhere near equivalent to like 8x8 or Ring Central. So I don't know why they didn't just go off and acquire. But I think it's harder than people realize it is. And so there's going to be but there's a lot of CRM companies that are going through this build buy decision right now. But it's not just that. I mean, there's all these companies that now want to be in the CCaaS space. And
Mm,
so you've got about five adjacencies coming together. Uh, you've got
okay.
UC, CCaaS, CPaaS, CRM, ticketing systems. They're conversational AI and workforce engagement. They're all kind of like, hey, we all got to be in the CCaaS space now, and so there's going to be a lot of transformation going on.
Well, we can break news on this show to make sure that everybody's 100% aware of all this new breaking news that neither Dave Michels nor I are going to be buying any of these companies right now.
We break a lot of stuff.
Break rules, break news, break everything else. Dave, thanks for joining me for the speculative conversation. Again, as a disclaimer, this is all pure speculation. If any of this happens, it's only because we're very smart people. It's not because we know anything here. And if we did know anything, we couldn't talk about it because we'd be under NDA. But thanks for joining me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us this week and every week as you do. And we will see you next week on UC Weekly News. Take care.